A disturbing new Ministry of Defense, MOD, report circulating in the Kremlin today states that scientific analysis provided to the Naval Main Command, NMC, from its research vessel RFS Viktor Leonov CCB175, NATO designation SSV-175, this past week provide growing evidence that the bizarre/mysterious high-temperature readings emanating from the Gulf of Mexico might, indeed, be linked to a deep underwater supervolcano that may be preparing to erupt, but at the very least, has violently altered normal global weather patterns. According to this report, the RFS Viktor Leonov CCB175 is a research intelligence vessel whose main mission for the past 4 years has been to monitor the growing abnormalities being evidenced in the Gulf Stream, that is a warm and swift Atlantic Ocean current that originates in the Gulf of Mexico and stretches to the tip of Florida, and then follows the eastern coastlines of the United States and Newfoundland before crossing the Atlantic Ocean, and whose normality of flow is critical to sustaining weather patterns over the entirety of the European continent. Beginning its mission to monitor the Gulf Stream in 2014 to 2015, this report continues. Research provided by the RFS Viktor Leonov CCB175 confirmed the 2015 evidence that this Atlantic Ocean current was slowing down faster than ever, and whose 2017 mission further confirmed Western scientists' findings that drastic cooling in North Atlantic was beyond their worst fears, and who gravely warned that this collapse of the Gulf Stream poses threat to life as we know it. During its current 2018 mission to monitor the Gulf Stream, that last year U.S. officials correctly said was not a threat, but in the Russia hysteria West today has them wetting their nappies about. This report details, the RFS Viktor Leonov CCB175 recorded the waters off the South American nation of Ecuador, on January 5, disappearing from their coastline, followed 3 days later, on January 8, by the waters disappearing off the North American Florida coastline, and that was followed within 24 hours. On January 9, by a massive 7.6 magnitude earthquake occurring in the Caribbean Sea adjacent to the Gulf of Mexico. Quickly following these mysterious events in and around the Gulf of Mexico, this report says, the Gulf Stream disruption it caused precipitated violent weather to strike the entirety of the European continent, with thousands of trees being felled in Moscow by freak a snowstorm, deadly gales sweeping across Belgium, Germany, Netherlands, and parts of the United Kingdom, and paralyzing snow falling as far south as the Mediterranean coast of Italy, but whose record cold onslaught suddenly stopped a fortnight ago when the entire weather system over Europe suddenly switched directions and headed towards North America. Most concerning about these events to the doctor scientists aboard the RFS Viktor Leonov CCB175 monitoring Gulf Stream, this report says, were the rapidly rising, then rapidly cooling temperatures of the entire Gulf of Mexico, with one location hitting the unprecedented high of over 55 degrees Celsius, plus 130 degrees Fahrenheit. With the average sea surface temperature of the Gulf of Mexico never falling below 23 degrees Celsius, 73 degrees Fahrenheit, over the winter for the first time on record last year, and whose dead zone has grown to its largest size in recorded history, this report continues. Doctor scientists aboard the research vessel RFS Viktor Leonov CCB175 assert that the Western excuse for these mysterious events being climate change cannot be true, as no evidence has been presented by them to make this connection. Unlike their Western counterparts, though, this report explains, Russian doctor scientists, when confronted by such mysteries, like what is now occurring in the Gulf of Mexico, look backward in time to our Earth's most ancient stories and myths to see if parallels can be drawn to what is happening now, and that led an examination of the Maya peoples who in ancient times inhabited this entire region, even stretching into the American states of Florida and Georgia. As documented by Carleton College researcher Lyndon DeSalvo in his 2008 research paper titled Bleeding Earth, Volcanoes as the Prototypical Mountains in Mayan Cosmological Past, this report says, the Maya people's stories and legends of their past speak of the entire Gulf of Mexico as being the place where mountains come from and also disappear into, and whose only modern times explanation of is someone describing the activities of a volcanic caldera that is a large cauldron-like depression that forms following the evacuation of a magma chamber/reservoir in a supervolcano eruption. Disregarding the Maya people's ancient legends, stories, and myths that the Gulf of Mexico could, indeed, be a massive volcanic caldera, this report details, Western scientists have long sought to discover as to how it came to be shaped like one, with the latest attempt being made in 2002 when American geologist Michael Stanton published a speculative essay suggesting an impact origin, comet/asteroid, for the Gulf of Mexico, but that all global geologists quickly rejected for its not having any credibility. Coming closer to the Maya people's ancient stories, however, this report continues, was noted American geologist Dr. David Pryor, who, while doing research at Louisiana State University, LSU, became the first scientist to document volcanic eruptions were, indeed, occurring in the Gulf of Mexico, and the discovery of which he wrote about in his 1989 scientific research paper titled Evidence for Sediment Eruption on Deep Sea Floor, Gulf of Mexico. Building on Dr. Pryor's scientific proof of volcanic eruptions occurring in the Gulf of Mexico, this report details, in 2003, asphalt volcanoes which were never heard of before were found forming in these waters, and that led to massive effort, all around the globe, to remap all the world's oceans to discover just how many underwater volcanoes there are, and when completed, in 2014, revealed thousands of underwater mountains and extinct volcanoes that were previously unknown. This past May, 2017, this report notes, the first in history detailed seafloor map of the Gulf of Mexico was finally released by the Americans, and whose stunning findings revealed its deep water seafloor was dominated by canyons, ridges, and faults, some of whose fault lines spread to the ancient Jackson, Mississippi, volcano, and with many believing that further discoveries will soon link the entire southeastern United States to the feared Trans-Mexican volcanic belt. Going by the events occurring in Mexico between the years 1854 to 1875, when the Gulf of Mexico region was shaken by 8 powerful earthquakes over 7 magnitude, this report further details, it's important to note that during this series of earthquakes, they were coincided by the last volcanoes to ever erupt in the southeastern United States, and that includes the June 20, 1857 volcanic eruption in Georgia, the September 2, 1866 volcanic eruption off the Gulf of Mexico coast of Florida, and the March 18, 1874 volcanic eruption in North Carolina. Though firm conclusions as to if a supervolcano caldera is awakening under the waters of the Gulf of Mexico cannot be made until further scientific discoveries, this report concludes, should that be, in fact, true, no scientific measures are yet established as to determine when it could erupt, and that could be measured in the tens, hundreds, or even thousands of years, but with the American people being the most unprepared for such a catastrophe in the modern world, and as evidenced by tens of millions of these supposedly educated people not even knowing that their homeowner's insurance doesn't cover them for earthquake or volcanic damage, thus leaving them all at risk of losing everything because they don't know that earthquake insurance has to be bought separately.